fellow learners, having been taken through relative clauses, yet to take you through the defining and non-defining relative clauses. I am very sure you've benefited a lot from Teacher Grace's lessons, and with me I'm just continuing with defining and non-defining relative clauses. To start with, let's handle the defining clauses. A defining clause is that clause required to define or qualify the main clause. To define means to talk about something, to give more details. So a defining clause is that clause that gives more details to the main clause. Now, the defining relative clauses have the following characteristics. The first one, the subject of the main clause is not clear. When you read it, you don't easily understand it. Secondly, the clauses are always short. Thirdly, when we are joining these clauses, no commas are required. Let's look at the examples. Example 1. The children are sick. We've said the subject of the main clause is not clear. So look at the number 1. The children are sick. In you will have a question. Which children? This one makes it not clear. The children are sick. Now, which children? Then, the other clause, the defining one, will come to give you the details of the children that we are talking about. So, the children were playing in the mud. And then you'll get to know that the children that are sick are those very children that were playing in the mud. So, when joining such a statement, we shall have our answer as the children who were playing in the mud are sick. The children who were playing in the mud are sick. So the defining relative clauses are not clear. That is the characteristics, number 1. Number 2 example, the snake was later killed. In your mind, you have a question, which snake? Now, the defining relative clause will come to give you more details about the snake that was killed. The snake was killed. The snake was later killed. Then it bit the old woman. So this clause is defining the first one. That's why it is called a defining relative clause. With only the main clause, you will not understand because it's not clear. The snake was later killed. You will ask yourself, which snake? So this one, the second one, comes to define the first one. So in that case, we shall have our answer as the snake which bit the old woman was later killed. The snake which bit the old woman was later killed. Look at example 3. The thief has been arrested. This one is not clear. So it needs another clause to define it. The defining relative clause comes in to define this. The thief has been arrested. So the police was looking for him. The police was looking for him. So shall have our answer as the thief for whom the police was looking has been arrested. So remember, Teacher Grace told you whenever we have a preposition, it has to come before the relative pronoun. So that's why we have the for here. The thief for whom the police was looking has been arrested. So these ones are defining relative clauses. And the other ones that you have done previously were all defining relative clauses. They do not require any commas. And they are always short in nature. And then the subject of the main clause is not clear, just like I have shown you. So having done the defining, hope you have understood the defining. Now let's go to the non-defining relative clauses. The non-defining relative clauses are always clear. Here we said these ones are unclear. So the opposite of unclear is clear. So the non-defining relative clauses are always clear. When you read them, you'll understand there and then. So these are relative clauses which don't define the subject, but simply give more information about it. These ones simply tell you more about the subject. They do not define it. That's why we call them the non-defining relative clauses. So the following are the characteristics of non-defining clauses. Number one, the subjects of the main clauses are clear. Here we said these are not clear, but the non-defining are clear and direct. Number two, the clauses are long. So number three, when the two clauses are joined, they require two commas. So when we are joining the non-defining relative clauses, we shall always use two commas. Look at example 1. George Wegulo is my neighbor. This statement is very clear. You do not need to ask which George Wegulo. The statement is clear. Then this other statement is simply giving more information. It's not defining. George Wegulo is my neighbor is just clear enough. So this second clause simply gives more information, more details, but does not tell you who George Wegulo is. So that's why we call it a non-defining clause. So I've said they are quite lengthy, and when we are joining them, we shall need two commas. And these commas, the first comma comes after the subject. So here is our answer. George Wegulo, insert the first comma, whom I like very much, another comma, is my neighbor. George Wegulo, whom I like very much, is my neighbor. So we need the two commas. We always use two commas when we are joining the non-defining relative clauses. Number two, Rachel is a referee. You do not need to ask which Rachel. It is already clear that Rachel is a referee. Then the second statement is simply giving more details about Rachel. Her nephew was dirtying the cutlery yesterday. Rachel is a referee. Her nephew was dirtying the cutlery yesterday. So we said we shall need two commas. And here, our relative pronoun is relative pronoun to use is going to replace the her. So we shall need the whose. So Rachel, comma, whose nephew was dirtying the cutlery yesterday, is a referee. Rachel, whose nephew was dirtying the cutlery yesterday, is a referee. Hope you are following. Number 3, Tamala has been arrested. Very clear. No need to ask which Tamala. Tamala has been arrested. Then the second statement is simply giving more details. It's not telling us who Tamala is. Tamala has been arrested. Then he knocked a pedestrian yesterday. He knocked a pedestrian yesterday. So when we shall say Tamala, who knocked a pedestrian yesterday, look at the commas, has been arrested. Tamala, who knocked a pedestrian yesterday, has been arrested. Hope you are following. Number 4, Leila Modern Restaurant is very attractive. You do not need to ask which Leila Modern restaurant. It's already clear and defined. So this other statement is a non-defining. It's not defining it. It's not. It's simply giving more details. Leila Modern Restaurant is very attractive. The restaurant is already clear. Then he showed it to me in the afternoon. So Leila Modern Restaurant, which he showed it to me in the afternoon, is very attractive. Leila Modern Restaurant, which he showed it to me in the afternoon, is very attractive. Hope you have followed through. So what you have to remember is that whenever you are joining the non-defining relative clauses, is that we shall always need two commas. Secondly, the clauses are always very lengthy. Sometimes they are lengthy, sometimes they are quite shorter. Then the subjects of the main clauses are clear. Whenever you read them and you find that they are clear, just know that you need two commas, because the second statement will not be defining, simply giving more details. Hope you have followed through and you have understood. We are going to write the activity in the book and some more activity that we are going to post. Thank you very much. It is page 89 in the workbook. Thank you for listening. Hope you've understood the lesson. Thank you.